Dr. K.S. Ramakrishnan is working as an assistant professor, School of Education, Tamil Nadu Open University, Chennai 15. He has been teaching science education, environmental science, educational technology and research methodology in various colleges of education and Tamil Nadu Open University for the past 9 years. He has guided so many M.Ed, M.Phil and PhD students. His current research areas are environmental education, educational technology and media and communication. He has conducted various workshops on ICT usage in education, Wiki Educator, e-content development and education research methodology. He had attended many online workshops on Moodle, learning analytics. He has published 6 books and many articles in national and international journals of repute. He regularly gives plenary and keynote speeches on environment and ICT related issues at various national and international conferences. He has delivered 28 episodes of the program Pudiyodor Ulagam at All India Radio, Chennai, related to various new developments in science and technology.
Welcome to UGC CEC program, and in this episode we will discuss about the industrial pollution part 3. So, already that we have seen the part 1 and part 2. And now we will see the part 3. And what are the contents we are going to discuss today? The lead, cadmium, arsenic and mercury. These are the 4 major industrial pollutants, and see in what way that they are impacting the human beings, that we are going to see today. And look at the diagram. The industrial sources. See the paper and pulp industry, and that is causing the mercury effluent, and it is resulting in a disease called Minamata disease. And similarly, the tanneries, they release chromium, iron, nickel, and they are causing a lot of havoc to they are toxic to aquatic life and self-purifying organisms. And the textiles, they release zinc and lead, and they are toxic to humans. And the coke oven, and they emit arsenic, cadmium, and the metal plating, that releases a lot of copper and silver, and they cause a disease called itai, and they are bioaccumulating also. And therefore, from the diagram we can see mercury, chromium, iron, lead, arsenic, cadmium and copper and silver. These are the major industrial pollutants. And now that we have taken the mercury, copper, lead, cadmium and arsenic, and they are resisting biodegradation. See, for example, some of the industrial effluents, and they are biodegrading, and after some time, in course of time, that they will be converted into some other less toxic elements. But these heavy metals, they are resisting biodegradation. And now first let us take copper. The copper, that is in the form of tributyl tin, and which is an anti-fouling paint for boats, and already it is banned in 1980s, and it is acting as an immunosuppressor, and it is accumulating unusually high in small whales, and sometimes it may be associated with strandings also, and therefore they are bioaccumulating. Therefore, when that is in the biocycle, in the food chain, they are moving from one organism to other organism. So, in that way they are bioaccumulation also. And now the mercury, it is a liquid metal and it rarely occurs in nature. Mostly that it is occurring in the form of mercuric sulfide, that is HGS, cinnabar, and it alloys easily with most of the metals like gold, silver, tin, etc. to form alloys. They are called amalgams. And the amalgamating with gold is used in the recovery of gold also. And therefore, the mercury that is having the property of amalgamation. And now, what are the health effect of mercury? That is affecting the nervous system, and it is affecting the brain functions also, and the chromosome damage, and they are affecting the DNA or the chromosomes, and skin cancers, tiredness and headaches, and they are having some negative reproductive effect such as sperm damage, birth defect and miscarriages. So, that means that they are causing a lot of problems or causing a havoc to the human being. And now that how they are affecting the environment, the acidic surface water consists of a good amount of mercury. When the pH value is from 5 to 7, the mercury concentration in water is increased, and therefore, once the mercury has reached the surface waters or solids, the microorganisms, they can convert that into methyl mercury. That means, once that it has started reacting with the microorganisms, then methyl mercury is formed, and it can be absorbed quickly by most of the organisms, and therefore, that they are transferred from one organism to another organisms. And the fish absorbs great amount of mercury, methyl mercury, from surface waters every day. And so, from water that has started accumulating on the body of the fish, and so naturally that it is circulating in the food chain. The effect that the mercury has on animals are kidney damage, stomach disruption, damage to intestine, and reproductive failure and DA alteration. So, these are all the impact of mercury. See, now it is diagrammatically given, and see the mercury that is in so many forms, that elemental mercury, that reactive mercury, particulate mercury and cinnabar. So, all these are various forms that mercury is available in nature. And see, in the hydrosphere, lithosphere and atmosphere, in all the three spheres that the mercury is circulating. See, first that it is in the form of the cinnabar, and from the sediment that it is coming to the water level, and in the water level it is in the form of elemental mercury, and therefore, when the mercury is absorbed by the small fish, and from the small fish that it is entering into the large fish, and therefore, you look at the concentration also, and here from very small concentration that it has reached a larger concentration, and similarly that mercury is directly going from water into the atmosphere also as a particulate matter, and from the atmosphere that they are entering into the lithosphere, and therefore, the trees are absorbing the mercury, and here from volcanoes also a large amount of mercuric toxins are released, and from batteries. And so, now from the diagram you can see the mercury goes on circulating or accumulating from one organism to another organism. So, from hydrosphere, atmosphere and lithosphere, therefore, it goes on accumulating, and that is called the bioaccumulation. And now, what are the health effect of cadmium? Cadmium is another heavy element, and the human uptake of cadmium is mainly through food, and the foodstuff rich in cadmium greatly increase the cadmium concentration in human bodies, liver, mushrooms, shellfish, mussels, cocoa powder and dried seaweed. they are containing large amount of cadmium, and therefore, when we are consuming, naturally that they are entering into our food chain. And what are the health effect of cadmium? It causes diarrhea, stomach pain and severe vomiting, bone fracture and the reproductive failure, and possibly even infertility, damage to central nervous system, immune system, psychological disorder and DNA damage and cancer development. So, these are all the health effect of cadmium. And now, how they are affecting the environment? They are transported to great distances when absorbed by sludge, and cadmium rich sludge, that is polluting the surface waters and soil, and they are strongly absorbed by organic matter in soil, and the cadmium rich soil is extremely dangerous as the uptake through food will increase, and therefore, the cadmium is entering into the human food chain from the sludge, from sludge into soil, and from soil into the food material, and from food material into the human body. So, in that way the cadmium is another toxic agent which is causing great harm to the human body. And now, some more environmental effects of cadmium. And the soils are acidified. So, when the soil is acidified, that is enhancing the cadmium intake, and they are entering into the animals and plants and accumulating in their bodies, and in general the cows are having a large amount of cadmium in their kidneys. And in aquatic ecosystem also, the cadmium can bioaccumulate in mussels, oysters, shrimps and lobsters, and therefore, they are affecting the aquatic ecosystem also. And the saltwater organisms are more resistant to cadmium poisoning than the freshwater organisms. And now, let us discuss about lead. The lead that is coming from the gasoline, that means the diesel, and it was invented in 1920, and they are entering into the atmosphere from the automobile exhaust, runoff and atmospheric fallout, and they are coming out of the industrial pollutants also, like landfills, mines and dumps. So, in all these possibilities, the lead is entering into the atmosphere and lithosphere. And the foodstuff like fruits, vegetables, meat, grains, seafood, soft drinks and wine contain significant amount of lead, and the cigarette also consists of small quantities of lead. And what are the health effect? They disrupt the biosynthesis of hemoglobin and anemia, and the blood pressure rises, and they damage the kidney, and they cause miscarriages, and they are disrupting the nervous system also. And some more damages, brain damage, declined fertility, and they are causing the sperm damage also. And see, these are more important, the diminished learning abilities of children, because as the brain damage and they are causing the learning disabilities, and behavioral disruptions of children such as aggression, impulsive behavior and hyperactivity, and they are entering into the fetus also through the placenta of the mother, and it causes serious damage to the nervous system and brains of even unborn children, and therefore, before the child is born, already the damage had happened, and therefore, it is very risky for pregnant women to work with lead, and therefore, now you can see in all possible ways they are affecting the health system, and particularly that they are affecting the brain, and therefore, the damage is very severe. So, the pregnant women are very risky to work with lead. And what are the lead resources? Diesel, the fuel combustion, the industrial process, and the solid waste combustion. So, by all these ways the lead that is emitted. What are the environmental effect of lead? It is accumulating in the bodies of water organisms and soil organisms. So, first they are entering into the water organism and it is affecting, for example, it is affecting the shellfish, and therefore, from the shellfish the body functions of phytoplankton disturbed when the lead interferes, and the phytoplankton, it is an important source of oxygen production in seas and many larger sea animals eat it, and the lead pollution can influence the global balances also. So, in that way, that is from one place to another place that they are disturbing, and therefore, ultimately the global balance is also disturbed. The soil functions are disturbed by lead, and particularly near the highways and farmlands where extreme concentrations of lead may be present, and the soil organisms are also suffering because of lead poisoning. And then another toxic agent is arsenic, and the arsenic is rich in fruit sprays, rat poison and pesticide. And what are the toxic effects of arsenic? Dizziness, chills, cramps and paralysis, and it interferes into cellular metabolism and it causes intravascular hemolysis also. See, look at the diagram and arsenic affected limbs, and so they are causing great havoc to the whole human body, and particularly that it is affecting the cellular metabolism, and therefore intravascular hemolysis is happening. And see, what are the dangers of lead and arsenic poisoning? Let us take the arsenic poisoning: nerve damage, skin damage, hyperkeratosis and the pigment changes. And the cancer risk also increase: lung cancer, bladder cancer and kidney and liver cancers, and the circulatory problems in skin. So, it affects the skin. On the other hand, the lead, that is mainly affecting the brain, and therefore, the mental retardation, coma, convulsions and even death also. And when the lead levels are somewhat less, then they are causing the reduced IQ levels, attention span, impaired growth, reading and learning disabilities, hearing loss and a range of other health and behavioral effects. So, in that way the arsenic and lead, they are affecting the human body. And then heavy metals. The term heavy metal refers to any metallic chemical element that has a relatively high density and is toxic or poisonous at low concentration. That means, even in low concentration also they are able to cause very high toxic effects. And what are the characteristics of heavy elements? They are natural components on the earth crust and they cannot be degraded or destroyed. That means, it is very difficult to degrade them or even destroy them also. And to a small extent they enter our bodies via food or drinking water and air. As trace elements, some heavy metals like copper, selenium, zinc, and they are very essential to maintain the metabolism of human body. And however, at higher concentrations they are leading to poisoning, and the heavy metal poisoning could result, for instance, from drinking water contamination, for example, the lead pipes, high ambient air concentrations near emission sources or intake via the food chain, and therefore, by these possibilities they are entering into the human body, and some of the effect of that heavy metal in 1932 to 52 there was a disease called Minamata. So, how it happened? The sewage containing mercury is released by Chiso's chemical works into Minamata Bay in Japan, and the mercury accumulates in sea creatures and leading eventually to mercury poisoning in the population. And therefore, in 1932 to 52, because of the mercury accumulated in the sewage and that entered into the creatures, and that is eventually poisoning the population. And in 1952, the first incident of mercury poisoning appeared in the population of Minamata Bay in Japan, caused by the consumption of the fish polluted with mercury, bringing nearly 1,000 fatalities. Since then, Japan has had the strictest environmental laws in the industrial world, and therefore, the problem has started in 1932, but the effect was known to the people in 1952 and resulting in some 1,000 fatalities. And therefore, from then on Japan has started implementing severe environmental laws. And another disease called Sandoz, and the water used to extinguish a major fire carriers, that is some fungicide containing mercury, into the upper Rhine. So, it has started from the fungicide, and fish are killed over a stretch of 100 kilometer. The shock drives many FEA projects forwards, and therefore, this caused a lot of problem in the Rhine areas, and it is another effect of the heavy metal pollution. And another incident of metal pollution in 1998 to 2004, the toxic elements in water from a burst dam belonging to a mine contaminate the Coto di Donona nature reserve in southern Spain, and so some 5 million metric tons of mud containing sulfur, lead, copper, zinc and cadmium, they flow down the Rio Guadimar, and the experts estimate that Europe's largest bird sanctuary as well as Spain's agriculture and fisheries will suffer permanent damage from the pollution. And so, this is because of the burst, that means a dam site burst, and therefore, that mud containing a large amount of the heavy metals that has entered into the human population, and therefore, what the experts are feeling that at least for some few years this will cause a permanent damage to the plants, animals and human population. And the mercury, that is one of the only common metal which is liquid, and therefore, because of the alloying property that it is easily mixing with gold, silver and tin, and therefore, it is entering into other elements called amalgam, and that is a toxin. And so, that we have seen in what way the mercury is affecting the health, and it is affecting the nervous system, brain function, DNA and allergic reactions resulting in skin rashes, tiredness and headaches, and some negative reproductive system also. And so, in all these possible ways they are affecting the human beings. And now, let us summarize. In this episode, we have discussed about the major heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic and copper, their effect on the environment and the health side of human beings and animal beings, and how they are moving from one place to another. All these have been discussed, and now let us have some questions. Question number 1: which are the most toxic heavy metal pollutants? And question number 2: mention some health effects of mercury. And third question: differentiate bioaccumulation and biomagnification. And fourth: is recycling possible for all kinds of waste materials? So, these are all the 4 questions. And so, today in this episode we had a discussion about heavy metals and their impact on the environment and the human health also. And in the next episode that we will discuss about the urban pollution, the pollution caused in the urban areas. And thank you.